Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Sunday, October 16th, 2022, and tonight I'll be sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media, ways to donate, and ways to contact me at the podcast page. And that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And so the plan for this week is the stories today, paranormal news tomorrow, more true stories on Tuesday, another comic book review episode on Wednesday. And please check out the Discord for details on how you can help decide or determine what event that we cover. We have some choices up there, and so check that out. And then Thursday will be more paranormal news, and I probably should not do an extra show this week, just so I have time to prepare for the last week before the big Halloween weekend and all those shows that we have planned for that. So just the 5 shows this week, but I'll be doing research on those days that I don't do shows. So it will be worth it in the end. I believe that was everything. Again, reminder, on the 29th, which is a Saturday, I'll be having Strange from Troubled Minds Radio on the show with me, and I'll reveal the topic for that when I get closer, and I can avoid forgetting and spilling the secret beforehand. Then maybe it'll be a surprise on that very night. We'll see. And then the 30th, instead of the usual true paranormal stories from the web on a Sunday, it'll be a call-in show, and that will be all about your favorite paranormal, anything, any media, movies, TV, comic books or regular books, anything just in that category. And that will be a call-in show, and where I will invite one person at a time to join me and talk about all these things. And so that should be fun. Just mentioning that now so that you all can think about that and maybe call in that night and go from there. And then, of course, Halloween, I'll be having Derek on again, and we'll be talking about anything and everything you can find to do with the paranormal here in Michigan, where I live. And I've already started the research for that, so that should be fun. And yeah, and then I'm sure you'll hear me, at least in part, on Troubled Minds Radio that night as well. So it should be a fun night, Halloween. And so yeah, I think that covers everything. Let me just get some water here while I get to the stories, and then we'll start. So one moment while I set things up. All right. So this first story says, and this is kind of funny because I don't know where they're talking about here, but the story says, many of you may have heard of, and they mention a hall here, something, Samlesbury Hall, and the White Lady, which is ironic because there are plenty of White Lady stories, women in white stories out there. So, but anyway, this says, in my whole time working there, I can't say I saw the white lady, but I did have one encounter that I don't think I'll forget. I used to be a cleaner for the small huts that people could stay overnight in. So I never worked or went directly into the hall, only walked past it when leaving and entering the grounds. But still, scary things happened. I would hear footsteps on the gravel coming towards the hut I was in, but no one was there. I had the occasional knocks on the doors and windows, and even heard faint voices and mumbles. But that became normal after a while. The scary part is when the little girl showed up. I was cleaning one day, and it was pouring down rain, so I kept all my stuff inside and only went out when moving between huts. I heard a very muffled knock at the door, but didn't see anyone out the door window, so I wrote it off as just another scary noise. There was a mirror directly across from the door, and when I turned around to face it, that's when I spotted her. She had fairly pale skin, brunette hair tied into a ponytail with a ribbon, and an oddly fancy but old looking dress. It was very common for us to host weddings there, but as far as I was aware, there wasn't one that day or the next. When I turned to face the door again, she was gone. Confused, I carried on my cleaning. When about 10 minutes later, I heard a knock again. This time she was really at the door. I was used to people asking me questions and such, but I didn't know what a child would really want. I opened the door, and she asked if I could help her open the door to the hut across from me. She said her mom was at the cafe, and she forgot to grab the key off of her. I wasn't as hesitant as I should have been, because it was only a little girl. I walked over with her and let her in. I was confused as there wasn't any luggage in the room. The beds were messy, and it was freezing cold with the window left open. But no bags. I assumed she had just gotten there, and her bags were in a car or something. Regardless, she thanked me, and I went back across. I finished my cleaning, and then pulled up the list I had made on my phone of what cleaning I had to do that day. Her hut was on the list. I had never been so confused in my life. I decided to go back to the hut I had left the girl in to ask if she got the right one. The window had been closed, and when I went to pull the handle down, the door was locked. I peeked through the window and saw the girl wasn't in there. I went back into the room, and it was no longer cold. The heating was on, and everything looked as though a family had just left, like it was a regular clean. And I'm guessing what they mean by that is it had already been cleaned. I never saw the girl again, but I'm 100% sure she wasn't human. I don't know what I saw and spoke to that day, but it was not a little girl. And that's the end of that story. I wonder how sure the writer is, how they know it wasn't a little girl. Or if they just mean that in a sense that it wasn't someone that was living, in that it was a spirit, and maybe they don't somehow consider spirits to be people or something along those lines. Or if they really felt it was some other kind of entity that was just taking on that form. Although at the time that it happened, it didn't seem like they were that sure of that. Um, Really amazing story, especially with the room being different when they came back the second time. Um, so I don't know what to make of that one. in terms of that question right there. Was that a little girl? The spirit of a little girl? Was that a little girl? Is always the possibility. Some kind of a time anomaly. Um, I don't know. The way the room looked like it was normal when the writer went back the second time seems like it could indicate that was the case, possibly. Um, but yeah, really hard to know. Um, but neat story, and I really wonder just what happened there, how that happened. If that was a little girl, if it was something else, what else would it be? Who else would it be? Um, yeah, neat story there. So, um, I guess I'll move on to this second story here in a moment. But, uh, but yeah. So I have four stories for today. So that was the first one, and so yeah, we'll go to this second one here. And let me see here. This one says, once I find my spot. Okay. This one says, hello, my name is, and I'll just say R. I'm 35 years old. I've always had the ability to see things, ever since I was a child. And so has my mom and grandmother. I lived in rural Connecticut, and I like to go exploring in the woods around my parents' property. One day when I was about 15, I discovered an abandoned house. It was an old Victorian-style home, and I went in and started exploring the house. Just a quick note here, everyone. Don't ever trespass, even if it looks abandoned. Um, if it's abandoned especially, it could be unsafe. Just putting that out there. But anyway, it says, it looked like a time capsule inside the house. It was very cool to me. I was standing in the main entrance, looking up the stairs, when I saw her. A woman that was standing at the top of the stairs. She was pale, and she was wearing a long white dress. Speaking of a woman in white, she had long black hair and green eyes. I said hello to her, and she smiled, waved, and said hello back to me. I asked her for her name, and she said M. And again, they give a name here, but I'll just leave it out. And then she disappeared. I was in shock and went home. I went back the next day and was looking around the outside of the house, and I felt like something was telling me to go to the back of the house. I did, and that's when I found it. A grave with the name M on it. According to the grave, she was born in 1810 and died in 1836. After that, I went home, and I picked some of my mom's roses, and went back to the house, and went back to the grave. I put the roses on the grave, and then I had the urge to look up. I looked up at the upstairs window of the home, and there she was, standing in the window, staring at me. She smiled and waved at me, and then disappeared. Tell me what you all think. So, that is an amazing experience to have. I'm glad that it didn't completely frighten um, this person, the writer, and everything. I'm glad that they also showed respect to the person, to the what seems like a spirit, um, especially with the way it appears and disappears, maybe, possibly, but and with the same name and everything. But really neat. Other than, like I said, outside of the walking around in an abandoned house, but beyond that, just a really neat experience. Whoever it was definitely didn't seem to mean any harm. Um, so yeah, just the neat story there, and positive ending. Makes me wonder if the writer ever went back there, and if they did, then were there no more experiences, or maybe they didn't go back there because they didn't feel they had to. Um, that's kind of where my mind goes, which is just what happened next. But there may not have been any real next there. They may have just walked elsewhere in the area. So, but amazing experience there. I just really nice to hear a story where it's not not terrifying. And yeah, so that's the second story I have for tonight. So let me see here. I'll get on to the third one. This says, this is a short story, but a real one. I was about 13, and I was sleeping in the living room one night because I felt sick, and it was closer to the bathroom. I had fallen asleep, and I was woken up here and there by the sound of someone in the kitchen clanging dishes and running water. And it sounded like they were washing them, or maybe trying to make something to eat. I had two older sisters who were known to make 5-course meals throughout the night, so this didn't faze me. That doesn't sound like a bad plan to me. 5-course meal at night. Anyway, I was actually comforted because I was afraid of being alone at night, and I really liked my sisters. I had fully woken up, and the clanging continued, and I called into the kitchen, "Hello, all." And as soon as I said it, the clanging stopped immediately. I waited for a response, and no one answered. I immediately was kind of confused and a little disturbed. It wasn't too scary yet because I knew what I heard, and it wasn't creepy. So I just got up and walked to the kitchen, and I walked in and saw no dishes moved out of place, and no one was there. I slept with my sister upstairs that night after that. And that's where the story ends. Neat, neat story there. Those sounds, the when you hear sounds like that, there to me that can be so many things. Um, that can just be a residual playback of that sound, as in a residual energy recording kind of deal. That could be some other those sounds coming through from some other time. Doesn't even have to be like ancient. It can just be any other point in time. Um, I mean, there's just a lot of possibilities there, but I like it because it's just like ordinary, um, daily life things that are happening there. That the sounds are happening there. So cool story. I've had not quite the same thing. I still don't know what this was. This is not long after I first moved into this apartment. But there was this one night where I heard I was asleep in the bedroom. That was back when I still slept in the bedroom. And I heard what sounded like just this massive glass. I don't even know what it was. But it sounded like a huge piece of glass plate or bowl or something, just crashing to the ground and shattering. And of course, that kind of freaked me out because I'm legally blind, so I can't really see glass very well, especially in small pieces. And but I also knew I didn't really have anything like that sitting out there in the open for it to fall. Excuse me. I have a couple of like especially made. I think it's like Pyrex or something like that. Um, like unique glass made just for the microwave. um, and I only have a couple of those. And again, those were not sitting out there in the open where they could just fall. And of course, I came out here and nothing was there. And I never did figure out what that was. Again, all those options I kind of laid out for the dishes could also explain that. So, but yeah, it is startling. In my case, it was really startling. In the case of the writer, there doesn't sound like it was quite that bad, which is good. Um, but yeah, I don't know what happened there. So in my case, but oh well, that's uh that's the way it usually goes. So I have one more story here to share, and this one I've never heard one quite like this. So you all can tell me what you think of this. This says this story isn't really something that I'm into, or this paranormal. I mean, isn't really something I'm into or that I've ever thought about. But I was hoping someone had some sort of explanation for something that I have noticed. Excuse me, my throat tonight. It says, I live in a small town in the UK. The roads are narrow, and there are a lot of pedestrians. The houses on the street I live on were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. As a result, some of the roads are far too narrow for cars. Behind all the houses connecting them together, there are cobbled stone paths, only wide enough for horses, bicycles, and pedestrians, as well as wide enough for a wooden cart, which used to be used to collect and drop off coal to the backs of the houses into storage shed for fires that were used to heat them. The houses are very close together, and some of them are joined up in short rows of 4 or 5 houses, facing in all different directions. The streets in front of the houses are 2 regular-sized cars wide, side mirror to side mirror, meaning one can park and one can squeeze past at slow speed. But there's no more room than that. Before I moved here, a school was built. I think I think it finished in around 2012. As a result, they changed the road layout. So it used to be a narrow road junction at the bottom of the hill for cars now has 2 large green metal gates across the road, and also metal fences run alongside it, which is now the rear of the school grounds, where their private sports ground is. However, because of the cobbled roads behind the houses and the short rows with the gaps, this entire area can still be navigated by people on foot or bike or horse. So they have left it open. Cars can still access the closed off, non-cobbled roads also, but they can't go anywhere. Only park. So that's the background. This is the paranormal bit. This has been laid out like this now for so long that anybody navigating around here on foot will have seen it before. It isn't new to anybody in the area. Nobody is lost or struggling to know where to go. The same for the cars. Only local cars pass by any of the houses because it doesn't really go to anywhere. A train line runs near it, cutting it off, so it never really went to anywhere before either. Yet, multiple times, every single day, without fail, and at all times of day or night, in all types of weather, people of all ages will walk, stop dead in their tracks, and just stand there. Cars will arrive, stop in the exact same spot, idle for 5 minutes, and then reverse and leave. It's not even just one person. Groups of kids or teenagers are the same. Even while leaving the school they attend every day, they seem to get stuck in the spot. Stand around for a moment, blankly looking at each other, maybe talking quietly, and then they carry on. They're not looking at a map or a phone, not tying a shoelace. It seems to capture them, like they just lost their programming for a second and reboot. On occasion, I've even seen people sitting near this fence, just on the ground, on what used to be a small road. That's rarely happened. Once it was a couple who used to walk this way and stop there, of all places. Like they chose it out as a place to rest. Another time, a different group of three. I guess I mean stop there. It genuinely makes no sense. I hear footsteps. I look out the window. Someone will be walking on the cobbled part, their steps making quite a bit of noise. Maybe talking if they're with somebody else. It tends to echo. They walk off the cobbles down a little hill, into the middle of the blocked crossroad, near the fences. They'll get to the exact same spot and stop. Anywhere from a couple of seconds to several minutes. And then carry on, the same direction they were already walking. I've walked there myself. I park my car near it. My house overlooks it. To me, nothing stands out about that particular spot. And that's where that story ends. So, I don't know what to make of that. Other than some kind of high energy or high, I don't know. Some kind of energy that is maybe extremely just present there. I don't even know. I just really, if there's a regular explanation, I'd be happy to accept it. I just don't know about this one. Of course, you could take the whole spiritual side. The title of the post online on the site I found it on was something like, it mentioned possession. And I mean, I don't know. That's a dark place to take it, possibly, but of multiple people? It sounds like it's multiple people. So if it's doing that to multiple people at one time, that's a lot of that's a lot of energy. Whatever it is, if it's conscious or not. It seems like there's just a lot of energy there. And it's people are sensing it. But it's weird that the writer doesn't feel it. So the only other thing I can think of earlier is there some kind of a landmark near there, like a beautiful or something that's like visually catching their eyes that the writer is just so used to that they don't even see anymore? But then what could be that distracting? And I'm wondering. It doesn't say if the people all face the same direction when they stop. So if they're not all facing the same direction when they stop, then that kind of rules that out. So I have no idea what to make of that one. But it also seems like a good opening for like a horror story in a way. But the good thing is at least nothing ever happens there in the real situation, which is good. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you all think. Both obviously here in the live stream, but just also in the future regarding this. To where everyone except for the writer there, it seems like, I don't know. I wonder if maybe the writer is just, maybe they're already adjusted to the energy there, right there, so they don't even feel it anymore. Let me see here. Apox says, possible that it has been an active area and people are drawn to it because of old energy. Yeah. I think it's something to do with energy. I don't know. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. But it obviously must not be a typical or an energy that is dangerous enough for it to be harming people. And it's not, you don't have the authorities there working to figure out what's going on and then fixing it. Yeah, not everyone feels everything. Yeah, exactly. So, Yeah, I don't know, but I thought that was a really neat story, odd story. Just what is going on there? So, and I figured that'd be a good way to end the episode tonight. So, um, maybe certain people are drawn to it for different reasons as well. Yeah, yeah. I wonder if it's a whole set of circumstances that that draw them to it. Draw different people to it for different reasons. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you all for listening, and I will be back tomorrow night with paranormal news on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.